You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock.
The Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, coming to you from London. My name is Mark, and joining me, as always, my partner in crime and maintainer of the Essex Field Office, Tea Kitty, it's Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
And you're a happy little boy because you got a happy little box of Happy Little Halcyon.
I am. New box of fresh Halcyon turned up today. Klaxon alert all over Twitter as I work my way through that over the next couple of
There'll
weeks.
be klaxon after klaxon.
Oh, yes.
We've got a fine-looking beer tonight. It's from a London brewery that we know quite well. From the 5 Points Brewing Company, we've got Hook Island Red, which is a 6% ABV red rye. Full of Chinook, Columbus and Simcoe hops. That is going to taste a treat, I'm sure, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Stevie, how's your beery week been, buddy?
Yeah, it's been another good week as I've been working my way through some of my selections here. The absolute highlight for me this week was a beer called Bones of a Sailor 3, which is a Siren craft brew beer. Now, this was, and I need to make sure I've got this right, it was an Imperial Porter aged in PX barrels with raspberries, cocoa and vanilla. Now, mate, I don't think you are going to come across a better beer this year than this one.
That sounds like it'll either be a car crash or amazing.
Well, it was just an all-out assault on the senses. The aroma screamed sour beer. This is going to be a sour beer. It had that real kind of sourness pouring out of it. The flavour was like drinking carbonated red wine that had been infused with vanillas and raspberries, and it had this hint of chocolate and roasted malts at the end of it. It was absolutely stunning. I honestly, mate, seriously, it's an incredible beer, and it's one that I would suggest people search out. It's still available in a few places, but get your hands on it because it was an absolute cracker of a beer.
What was the name of it again?
Bones of a Sailor Part 3.
From Siren.
From Siren, yes.
Not a collab beer this time.
No, this is pure Siren.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, and what else have you had?
Other than that, I was at a bottle share event last week where we shared many beers, lots of which I can't remember. The highlights from that though were probably this massive bottle. It was 1.5 litre bottle of dark lager that Clayfish had brought back from New Zealand with him and shared that, so everyone really enjoyed getting into that. And actually, probably one of the real highlights of the night was before the bottle share actually started. The place that we were in had Oakham Green Devil on, which is an IPA.
Okay.
Literally, I sunk 2 pints of that before we even started the bottle share. It was so crisp and refreshing.
Oakham always do great beers.
Oh, mate, it was like their Citra that had been injected with like steroids and was on speed while tripping at an 80s house festival. It was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
What about you, mate? I mean, there've been two real standouts for me this week. What about yourself? Have you had anything notable?
I've had one beer in the last week. I don't know why. I know. It's like I had all these intentions because I've got a pile of beer behind me, as you can see on my camera, that I've been meaning to get into, but for some reason or other I just didn't get any. And then I went away for the weekend to the in-laws, and that's usually when I take a supply with me to get through the weekend. But I forgot to pack them, so I ended up getting a bottle of Ghost Ship when I was up there. In the hopes of getting a fresh one like you had on your camping trip the other week. It was pretty good, but it wasn't amazing like you were saying.
I was going to say, I was guessing where that was going.
But I really enjoyed it. I can't quite remember what I was. I was hoping for a Citra bomb, but it's not a Citra bomb because it's just, you put the malts through it and all that kind of stuff. It's a bottle of beer, but it was lovely. Decent beer, Ghost Ship. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Anyway, we've got some beery news, I think, mate.
Yes, loads of news this week.
Beep, 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 beep.
Okay, so breaking news just in. We've announced this on Twitter this week, and for anybody that missed this, I just want to mention it on this week's show. Sadly, the offer that we've been doing with Drink Store in Ireland has ended rather abruptly. They've taken a decision that due to some issues that they've had with various couriers bringing the beer to the UK and the amount of bottles that are actually being damaged in transit, it's sadly costing Drink Store more money than they're actually making out of it to keep honouring the orders and resending the beers. So sadly, as of this point, not just the Beer O'Clock Show box, but Drink Store are no longer shipping to the UK. So if you want to get your hands on some of that sweet Irish beer, you're going to need to find another method. Or alternatively, I don't want to say this, but we told you so. You should have ordered it earlier on while it was still available. Because if you haven't got your hands on any of it, you have missed out on some cracking beers. We are still talking to Drink Store about the potential. They're looking at different distribution methods and packaging and all different things. And if they do deem it as a viable business option, we will look to re-engage something with them, and obviously we'll let people know. So just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the guys for what they've done in terms of supply. And I know quite a few listeners to the show have ordered the beers and a lot of other beers from the website as well. And there's a lot of people that I spoke to on Twitter as well that have also said they've ordered beers from the site. So thanks to the guys for helping us out with those. And thanks for honouring the orders that are still outstanding.
Yeah, hats off to them. That, it was really good of them to sort that out for us and put it up on their website as a special box and everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. For a while there, we were kind of exclusively involved in some of these beers being imported to the UK. Sadly, not so much, but hopefully we'll see them in the UK in other methods soon enough. Back to other news. And this is an interesting one. This is news that was sent to us by a listener. So
wow.
It's almost a new segment in the making here. Send us your regional news and we'll talk about it in the news. So this came from @BigBeerFairy, who wanted to tell us that the Three Valleys Beer Festival will be taking place in 18 venues. Where the Three Valleys are in Derbyshire. The 17 pubs are in Dronfield, Bradway, Totley, Barlow, Cole, Aston, Apenol and Hundle. I don't know, half of those don't even sound like they're in England. But for more information, threevallesfestival.org.uk, and thanks again to Big Beer Fairy for sending us that. Next story, Marks and Spencers have gone all craft, mate. Seriously. This was all over Twitter in the last week. Not only are they stocking a new range of brewed for beers, so the likes of Adnams and Oakham have brewed new beers for Marks and Spencers that are containing English-only hops.
Mm-hmm. So this is under the Marks and Spencers name, right?
Under the Marks and Spencers name, but brewed for by some of the big regional breweries. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, Marks and Spencers are now stocking Camden Town Brewery, Hells and Pale Ale, Four Pure Brewing IPA and Pils, Meantime Brewing Pils and Pale Ale, Buxton Brewery Moortop, Anchor Cali Lager, Brooklyn Half Ale, Goose Island IPA, and all of the other M&S branded beers. So Marks and Spencer, all of a sudden, are seriously becoming the go-to place for your beer.
Big ups to M&S for stocking Buxton and Four Pure, the ones you don't normally see in the shops.
Yeah, well, being able to walk into a shop and come out with a bottle of Buxton beer, winning. Next item, Yorkshire Brewer wins Beard of Spring Award. Now we've spoken about these guys before. I'm pretty sure the Beard Liberation Front are back. They can campaign against beardism, and they've announced that Stuart Ross, who's the head brewer for Magic Rock Brewery, has won its Beard of Spring Award. Now, if you've ever met Stuart or you've seen him on Twitter, it's an impressive beard that man sports. But it's the first time a brewer's won this award in 20 years. And by all accounts, it reflects the rise of craft brewing. So, Stu, congratulations for winning the Beard of Spring Award. And he now goes into the Beard of the Year Awards in December. He may well become the first brewer to sport the great British beard or the beard of Britain. I don't know what they call it. And then finally, just to mention, on June the 15th is Beer Day Britain. Now, we've spoke about this before. It's a day where across the country we're going to be celebrating the nation's favourite tipple. It's also the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta signing on the 15th of June. And there'll be special events going on now. Beer Day Britain is... I can't find the website address at the moment, but they're on Twitter at Beer Day Britain. You can follow them. But we're also planning on doing a bit of a collaboration show with them to tie into Beer Day Britain on the 15th of June. So keep an eye out for that in season 7. And that's all I've got for this week's news, mate.
Alrighty, that's a nice batch of news, that.
I'm quite proud of the news this week.
That's how you should be, son.
Let me just reach around and pat myself on the back.
Well, let's get into this week's beer then. This is from 5 Points Brewing Company, a great little London brewery. It is their red rye, 6% ABV, called Hook Island Red. It's a full-bodied aromatic red ale brewed with Chinook, Columbus, and Simcoe hops. Right, let's get into it.
There's a lovely aroma coming out of the bottle, mate. Straight away, you're just getting all of those hop profiles pouring out of the bottle. It's got a lovely pour on it. It's a lovely red colour, as you'd expect from the name. A slightly off-white head, but nice, big, fluffy head in the glass.
Mm-hmm. Lovely sweet aroma off it.
Aromas, yeah, sort of caramel and pine. A little bit of citrus in the background. It's a very attractive looking beer. That's got to be said for this.
Right, shall we get into it, mate?
Let's not pontificate over what it looks and smells like. Let's actually start tasting it. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal.
Oh, what are you thinking on that?
You get that lovely rye flavours coming straight up front, straight down the middle, straight up your nose, and mouth filling with that blend of hops. It's just like, it feels like my mouth is sparkling from the pinpricks of bitterness from this beer.
Yep. The rye is certainly a big player in there.
Yeah.
You do get the flavour of it straight away. You get the lasting dry bitterness at the end from it as well. And it just complements the hops so well. All the flavours are just working so well together in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I know about this beer, having done some research for once this week, 20% of rye added to the recipe, along with the hops. And according to the guys at 5 Points, they think that it gives a dash of pine and passion fruit. But obviously everyone's taste buds are slightly different. I certainly picked up the pine on the aroma, not so much getting any of the passion fruit in there, but I am getting the beautiful combination of those big American hops in there.
See, I'm not getting much of the pine even. I'm getting lovely sweet fruits coming through on the nose. But then on the flavours, it's kind of biscuity, slightly woody rye, hop bitterness.
Definitely appreciate what you're saying about the biscuity. That's kind of working really well with all the different profiles coming off the different hops that are in there.
Yeah.
It has got a long dry finish on it though, which is really nice. I mean, this is one that obviously, you know, as we're heading into the nice sunny warm days now, you just kick back on a chair in the garden at the end of the evening, just enjoying this as the sun goes down, I think.
Yeah, the 6%, you can tell, is pretty much a 6% beer. It's not terribly sessionable, but it's one, like you say, you could sit on and drink throughout the afternoon. Yeah, it's not overly, it's not boozy, it's not overly strong in that way. Lovely bittering all the way through it, and like you're saying, it lasts all the way through. I mean, I took my sip a couple of minutes ago, and it's still there, still lasting. And too often we have these supposedly quite hop-bittered beers, and that hop bitterness just dissipates within like 30 seconds.
It is, as I'm working my way down the glass here, I'm probably getting a little bit more caramel towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
That is being finely balanced by the sort of the tropical fruit flavors that are coming through in it. It just works really, really well. This is a really stunning beer from 5 Points. And I know you said in the intro to the beer that obviously we've featured 5 Points beers in the past. We've done their IPA on the show. We've had an interview with them. They're still a relatively small London brewery. Their core range only consists of 4 beers, and they do those 4 beers exceptionally well.
Yeah, now they do this one. They do the IPA. They do a pale. Am I right?
Yes.
And what's the other one?
They've got a railway porter.
That's it. The railway porter
as well.
I think I've had that on cask before, or keg. It came out of a tap. one or the other. I don't know the difference, but I'm pretty sure I've had that before, and that was smashing as well.
Yeah, it's a solid porter. I mean, they do play around with variations of the beer. They've recently done a derailed porter, which was one that had been tucked away in barrels for a year with some Brett to see what that did to the flavours. They obviously recently did a slightly different hopped version of their pale ale as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, I think what they do exceptionally well. And I think there are all too many breweries in this day and age that just are constantly looking to do new beer after new beer after new beer. I think it's great to see a brewery say, no, you know what, actually that's our range, and we're going to concentrate on making that range as good as possible. Occasionally we might bring out a special, but that's what you're going to get from us. And that sort of, that hexagonal, pentagonal logo of theirs is one that is almost a mark of our quality. If you see that on the bar, you know you're going to get a decent beer from us.
Yeah. And what I like about 5 Points is if you follow them on Twitter and you see the way they tweet about their beer, and it's always about it never feels like I'm being marketed to. It just feels like they're making these great beers that they are passionate about and that they have pride in. And so, they do come out. They came out with that, like you say, the pale that came out with the different hops in it. They didn't do a grand new relaunch of their beer or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. They're just, they're great little brewery in Hackney, putting out these beers. Londoners love them. For a small brewery, they're all over the place when it comes to London. You can find their stuff popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm getting a slightly woody notes coming through on the nose now.
Just as you reach the end, yeah. There's that. For me, it's still overpowering of the pine and citrus from the hops that are just coming through. I really enjoyed that. You can tell how much I enjoyed that because that's actually disappeared fairly quickly tonight. That's a good one. I would recommend that highly to people. If you see 5 Points Hook Island Red, give it a go. If red ryes are your thing, we've done a few of them now. We've done a few red beers this season as well. Again, it's what you're saying about the brewery, mate. Almost an understated standout beer of this season. There,
yeah.
Just came out of nowhere. Really, really enjoyable stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to find their stuff in many of the dedicated bottle shops in London. Source Market always have 5 Points on. Really easy to get if you're in London.
Hours by Mail do them, mate. So if people want to take full use of the discount that we have running with Hours by Mail, you can always get yourself a great selection of 5 Points. I think at the moment, actually, they're doing a 5 Point selection box as well. 12 beers. So I think you get 3 of each of the beers in that selection box. That's probably worth a punt with the discount as well.
Yeah, or if you just want to get a 4-pack of and try their core range, or their range. Their core range, it is their range.
Yeah.
They're all great, all balanced, all exactly what the intended is. You want a porter? Their porter's great. Pale does the job, IPA does the job. This red rye, Hawk Island red. Smashing. Not much else to say.
No.
So I'm just going to finish it off.
Okay, you enjoy that, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed mine.
Cool. Okay. Steve, do you want to talk about? We've mentioned this briefly before, but this season is all about the off-spin. The spin-off series.
Or the spin-off, even.
The off-spin. It's all about the spin-off series. And so we've got one that is coming out, I think it's launching next week.
It is
if I
launching
remember.
next
Do you want to tell the boys and girls what this is all about?
Yes, as you say, we've mentioned this a few times, we've teased it a few times. We have been playing around with the idea of going back and revisiting some of the beers that we did early on in the Beer O'Clock show, when we were both beer noobs and we didn't really know what we were talking about, and we spent a lot of time saying, well, this beer smells and tastes hoppy, without really giving any descriptor of the flavours. So what we've done is we've gone back through season 1 and the beginning of season 2, and we've picked out I think it's 8 beers that we're going to go back and we're going to review again. And we are launching a new spin-off series. It's going to be one a month, so we're not going to be overloading your feed too much. And series is simply called Revisited, and that launches on Tuesday the 21st of April, and the first beer that we'll be revisiting is Thornbridge's Wild Raven. So that will, if you subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, that will automatically pop up next Tuesday. Alternatively, you can listen on the website and on Stitcher and via all of the various other methods where you can access our content. We would love to know what you think of these new revisited reviews. If you've got the patience within you, go back and listen to the original and then listen to Revisited and compare the two. But please give us some feedback on it. Leave us a review on iTunes or get in touch via Twitter. And as I say, we'll be doing a series of about 8 of them, so it's probably going to take us up to Christmas, one a month. But there's some interesting beers that we're going back and doing again. So yeah, we're launching that with Thornbridge's Wild Raven, which will be available next week.
Very good. Season 7.
Yes,
Coming sooner than we think.
It is. It's interesting because I was thinking about this today actually, and season 7. It's going to feel like these American serials that you get that occasionally that they run out of ideas. So what they do is an episode that's kind of going back to all the previous episodes of a little bit of new content, because they don't really know what they're doing. Well, season 7's a little bit like that because we didn't really plan or coordinate our holidays this year, so that means we've ended up both being away back to back, which means there's going to be potentially a long gap in the summer where you're not going to hear anything from us. So we've had to move things around a little bit, and the original ideas that we had for season 7 have been shelved. So what season 7 is essentially going to be is the theme that we're going with is 6 nations, and so therefore we're going to be doing beers from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, France and Italy. Obviously within that you can see that there are links back there to season 6 doing the Irish beers. There's links back to season 5 where we did some of the Italian beers. There's going to be some fairly standard UK beers that we're going to throw in there as well. We're definitely going to be doing the new Brewdog mash tag as the Scottish entry. And there will also be the normal homebrew special, and chatting to the homebrewers, there's going to be some crazy beers coming up on that show as well. And then also right in the middle of the season, as I mentioned earlier on, it's Beer Day Britain, and we're going to be doing a special show with Jane Payton, who's behind that, Beer Sommelier, and we're going to be talking about Beer Day Britain with her and reviewing the beer that they're brewing in celebration of British beer. So It's going to, as I say, it's going to be a bit of a mismatch. It's going to be a fairly short season. It's only about 7 or 8 weeks. And then what that's going to lead us into is a series of summer specials that we're planning that should be hitting your feed around about every 2 weeks. Not going to talk about them too much just yet. But that gives you an idea of what we've got coming up post this season. There'll be a week's break when we finish season 6. And then we'll be back with season 7. So right on top of this one. And just some beers that we want to drink and want to enjoy, really, mate, I think.
Yeah, it all sounds a little bit bitty, but it's all planned with precision.
It will work. Yes, trust us. It will absolutely work.
And the little summer specials we've got coming, I can't wait. It's such a nice little mix of things that we're going to be doing over that little summer break. I call it a break. We won't actually be away for very long at all.
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, so that's season 7 coming, like I said, much sooner than we think. But we've still got the whole Irish season to conclude, which we've been enjoying an absolute crap load. It's been so much fun. And a shout out to the lovely Dunn couple for sending me bags of Tato crisps on request. Much appreciated, and my half Irish wife was very excited when I told her that we've got Tato's at home. So, Janice and Wayne, thank you very much. Anyway, before we go, we've got a little bit of a secret that Steve decided to spring on me. I think it was last night, wasn't it, Steve?
It was. I know how much you like these little last minute. Guess what we're doing on this week's show? Type surprises.
So you may have heard Steve talk last week, I think it was, about Sink the Bismark from Brewdog, a 41% quadruple IPA, and he decided he was going to. He poured out about a thumb's worth, which was probably about all I need, and so we're going to do that as a really quick review before the end of the show, and you can see just how quickly this will screw me up. So, yeah. Steve, tell me about this beer, buddy.
Okay. There's. Just let you smell it first of all. Just the background to it. There's long been competition going on in terms of the strongest beer in the world, and various breweries have been going against one another and upping the stakes on the beers. Now, Sink the Bismark, when it was released, came in at 41% and was the world's strongest beer. It's since been eclipsed by other beers. Brewdog themselves have gone on to brew a 55% beer, and there's some question marks against from the beer purist community as to whether it's actually a beer anymore or not, because basically it's been frozen, it's had all the water removed and the alcohol kept, and it's then had frozen hops added to it, and then it's been frozen again and again and again, and that's how they've got it down to this percentage. And actually and that's where the argument stems from. Is it a beer? Is it a spirit? What actually is it? The world's strongest naturally fermenting beer is a Sam Adams beer, Utopias, which comes in at 29% ABV, and that's naturally fermented as a beer. This not so much anymore. So this is 41% ABV. It's got 4 times hops, 4 times bitterness, and 4 times frozen 4 times to come in at that. As I say, it's no longer the world's strongest beer. Sitting above this now is a beer that goes by the name of Kolschlip Start the Future, which is currently the world's strongest beer at 60%. There are, on the research that I did, there are 2 beers that sit above this, both by Brewmeister, both of which have proved to be absolute bullshit, apparently, because they've literally just had pure alcohol added to the beer, so they no longer count. So, and I just thought it would be a bit of fun just to throw this in as a bit of a curveball at the end of a show, just to get your reaction to it, and just to share with our listeners what is a 41% beer. So, mate, what are your initial thoughts around the aroma of this?
Well, I've poured this into the bottom of like a proper full-size pint glass, and I can smell it from the top. And
is it burning your nasal hair?
not really. I mean, it's like someone trying to shove a pine cone up my nose, but there's a real boozy edge to it as well, a real spirity edge.
I think the thing for me is, and the thing that really surprises me with this as well, because I tried the Tactical Nuclear Penguin, which was a 32% beer that Brewdog had made, and that started life as a stout, and that ended up being a very, very sweet thing in a glass. The thing that really surprises me with this is you can actually still smell the hops on it.
Yeah.
Once you get through the burn, that there are hops coming off of this, and that's what amazes me, that even by the fact that it's been frozen 4 times, you're still getting a hop profile off of this beer.
Yeah. Now that it's aired a little bit, it's smelling quite sweet.
Yeah.
But a nice kind of grassy pine nose off it. Anyway, at the risk of losing my eyebrows, cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so for the listeners at home, Mark is screwing up his face and looking at me like he hates me right now.
It felt like it stripped the inside of my mouth away as I drank it. Oh, and I can feel it going all the way down.
Have you done it in one?
No. I took a sip.
I was going to say, please tell me you didn't do like a shot. Right. Okay. So now you've got that initial one down. Take another sip.
Okay.
And see what you get from it the second time.
As it's coming towards me in the glass like this slithering demonic fluid, I can smell the alcohol coming off it. My mouth feels like it's been wrapped with an electric blanket. So warm. Tastes nice though, I'll tell you what.
It is, isn't it?
It's really smooth. Strange. I actually quite like this.
Ooh,
despite the
revelation, ladies and gentlemen.
Despite the sense, I mean, there's not much bitterness there. You kind of anticipate it with the hops, I think.
See, no, I think there is a little bit of bitterness at the end of it.
No, it's kind of like a warmed up cough syrup.
Maybe not what they were aiming for.
Not quite that treacly, but very smooth though.
I mean, it does pose the question of, is this a beer? Or is it a spirit, or is it some sort of distilled spirit hybrid? It's a strange one for me. I mean, I really enjoy it. I'm really enjoying it, having it in these small measures. You certainly wouldn't want to go any more than that, because that'd just be stupid. At 41%, it's liable to do you a lot of damage. I think the flavours in there are complex. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of boozy burn to it, and I did find when I did it in the bar that the longer you leave it in the glass, the more that burn softens as well. So the more the air gets to it, the more it softens and the more flavour you get from it. But it's just really interesting. I think it's great that Brewdog have brought this back out again as well, so that people can give it another try. And I know it's available in their bars at the moment. If people want to go in and have a sample, it will cost you £5 for a 25ml sample. I'd say that's a £5 well spent to just for bragging rights more than anything else, to say that you've drunk a 41% beer.
Indeed. I would class this as a beer. When you kind of try and get beyond the alcohol burn and the obvious spirit-like characteristics of it, there is this very faint malt bedding to it. Nice little bitterness from what hops are left in the flavours. You got the obvious hops on the nose from when I first poured it out. This is actually really enjoyable for something that you're just going to sip and you're just going to experience for a little bit. You're not going to order a third of it.
I don't think you could drink a third of it, mate. I honestly don't. I think it would finish you off. And that's exactly the reason why I invested a bottle, because I often find myself, you get to the end of maybe sitting at home and going through a few of your beers one evening, and you've gone along the natural progression where you've maybe started with a fairly easy beer, you've hit an IPA, maybe then gone on to a stout, and then you sit there thinking, well, where do I go now? What's next? And for me, I've now got a little snifter to have at the end of the evening until my bottle runs dry.
And it's a nice little lip warmer.
Yes, absolutely.
Puts a little tingle in your lips.
Indeed it does. So, 2 for the price of 1 there tonight, guys. You've got yourself a little bonus review of Brewdog Sink the Bismark.
Very good. Right, let's begin wrapping this up, mate. Do you have an Instagram of the week?
Yes, close competition this week. Almost very difficult to decide. Honourable mentions to Plim Sean and to Sparky Wright for some of their entries this week. Have been great pictures as always. But this week's picture goes to a new contributor, Tom is Red, for this picture of Ageless by Red
lovely.
Willow. Which I really enjoyed that picture. So congratulations, Tom is Red. You are this week's prize, and there is a great big box full of nothing heading to you right now.
Yeah, you're not even getting the box, mate.
No, you just get nothing in the post. If you want to win our great big empty box of nothing and be the crowned prize for that week, post your pictures on Instagram, use the hashtag Cheers Guys, and I will pick them up and decide whether you are worthy or not.
Indeed. Now, as we get closer to the end of the show, after the tinkly music, we're going to have a little interview with, it says here, Barry, the bar manager from Dublin. Do you want to expand on that, or shall we just let...
Barry he manages a bar in Temple Bar in Dublin, and when I was out there earlier on in the year, to continue the Irish theme, to keep that running throughout the season, I did an interview with Barry just about the Irish craft beer scene and how he perceives the beer scene out there is changing from a bar manager's perspective. So it's a great little interview. Check that out at the end of tonight's show.
Very good. And coming up next week, we've got a couple of special little guests, some young lads who've been with us before. We've got...
Yes.
Shall I say, or shall you?
No, you can do it
All
this
right.
week.
Well,
you go for it.
We're going to be reviewing the Colonel Export Stout London 1890 with famed beer writer Chris Hall and famed beer palate Justin Mason. So we've had both of them on the show before. I'm sure people are very used to Justin being on the show. He's a regular contributor. And we've had Chris Hall on about a year and a half ago, I think. He came along.
Yeah, he did a Colonel with us last time as well, if my memory serves me correctly. We did the London Sour. So
Chris is a beer blogger. He's written a couple of books for Future Publishing, and he's working on a new one at the moment. So if you follow him on Twitter, you will see him doing lots of quote-unquote research by going to pubs all over the country and drinking beer. But they're going to be joining us next week to review that Colonel. And we are going to throw something a little different in next week. We are. Again, as well. We have another wild card, folks. Yeah, shall we leave that till next week? We'll leave it till next week. Let's leave it till next week. Okay. Right. The Beer O'Clock Show is proud to be supported by Ales by Mail, your premier destination for bottled real ales delivered directly to your door. Visit alesbymail.co.uk and use the code BOCS10 for a 10% discount on their entire bottled range. You can find us online at beeroclockshow.co.uk, on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show, on Instagram at Beer O'Clock Show, on Untapped at Beer O'Clock Show Steve. I'm on Untapped at Roku, and I'm on Twitter at Beer Show Mark. It's changed, folks. Yay! I've changed my Twitter handle because no one knows what the hell Roku beer means, and it doesn't mean anything. Beer Show Mark. At least people will understand that I'm part of this. Right. Saying that. Until next week, Stevie. It's been the highlight of my week. And mine. Cheerio.
Okay, so I'm here in Dublin. I'm with Barry, who's a bar manager here in the city centre. Hi Barry, how are you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for taking some time to talk to us on the show this evening.
No problem at all.
Just tell me, how has the beer scene changed here in Ireland in the last 18 months or so?
In the last 18 months, we've had an explosion of breweries. We've had an extra. It was predicted that at the start of 2015 we would have 50 breweries. We're now up to about 57 breweries and 18 contract breweries. It's absolutely flying over here. You see bars opening left, right and centre with craft beer, and it's just great to see it. Everyone seems to be getting behind it.
Okay, and what do you think's driving this change in beer in Ireland right now?
Well, there is a certain global trend that kind of comes our way from time to time, but I think people want more value for money. I think people want to see they're paying top dollar for a product. They want it to be a good beer, well worth it, not just your normal beer. They want something different, something extra, something careful.
Mm-hmm. And do you think people are turning more towards the locally produced beers?
Yes, I know really. The imports from the States are definitely popular, but with the likes of Metal Man, White Hag, who's just started last year, like everyone seems to be coming out and bringing out these fantastic beers such as Black Boar, which is a 10.2% oatmeal stout. And whenever that quality of beer starts coming out in Ireland, people are just going to go mad for it, and it's jumping up there, and it's getting good.
Mm-hmm. So what are your views on the beer scene in Ireland right now? Because obviously it's changing. More people are moving towards. I hate to use the term craft, but it's a term that people understand.
Yeah.
Why do you think more people are turning towards craft, and what do you think of the craft beer scene right now?
I think the craft beer scene in Ireland is just. I think it's fantastic. I think the amount of different beers that we can get our hands on in Ireland, as opposed to what we could get 3 years ago even, is just phenomenal. A couple of years ago, everyone was just doing their normal pale ales, red ales and stouts. Now we're getting double IPAs, Imperial Oatmeal, Imperial Russian stouts, Belgian doubles. Everyone is trying to do something, and the level that they're getting to so quickly is amazing to me.
Do you think there's a thirst from the consumer to try these new styles of beer that are being produced?
Yes. Last month we done a tap takeover with 8 Degrees, a very imperial winter, where we've had they released 3 new beers, all high ABV beers, and once they came in, they sold out in record time, really. And people, once a new beer comes in, like the milk chocolate stout from Bow Bristol, that was just out at the start of January and sold out pretty much straight away. People want to try new things. People are excited when a new beer comes on, and it's certainly a way to go, and it's just something that is really doing well in Ireland at the moment.
Do you think your customers are bored with the mass-produced beers and are looking for new experiences?
Well, we've seen our customer base change. Obviously, our customers here have. Once they get into craft beer, they never go back. You have about 80% of people who try it and want to stay on it. 20% obviously just like what they like. But I think everyone wants to try something new. Everyone wants to try something different. And instead of people just telling you that this beer is the best because it's beechwood aged and whatever, they can actually taste the difference in these beers, and they can tell there's a lot more care put into them.
So recently we saw in the States the sales of craft beer overtake Bud for the first time. How does that compare to what's going on in Ireland right now? Are you seeing the consumers buying more craft beer, or are they still going for the big beers?
I think there's definitely, in the cities, a lot of people are going towards craft beer. Down the country, it's not following as quickly, but it is following. I think it took them nearly 25 years for America to catch up. I think we're in really about 4 or 5 years into when it's really progressing, and I think that the likes of, say, Donegal Blonde, who based himself up in Ballyshannon, and it's a very, very strange area for craft beer, but he's got over 500 craft beers in his off license, and for it to be going so well there, it shows that there's market for it all over Ireland. So we hope that it will continue to grow. Well, Budweiser over here really isn't really a bigger player anymore anyway, so hopefully we'll pass that pretty soon.
Yeah. So what do you think lies in store in the next 12 to 18 months for Irish craft beers?
More experimenting. A lot more breweries coming out than I could say are predicted. We hope that the quality stays the same, because that would be the main thing. If a couple of breweries come out and are just in it for the money and don't care about the quality, that will show, which will put people off it to a certain extent. But I certainly see, even just last year, what 2014 8 Degrees did, phenomenal. White Hag came out with some great beers. Rascals with their ginger porter, that's one of my favourites from last year. I can see 2014 compared to 2013, there was a lot more experimenting. I can see the same thing happening this year, and I hope that a couple more breweries start to get footholds in their own areas so they can really build it nationwide.
Okay, and do you think anytime soon, from our perspective, you're going to see some of these Irish beers making their way into the UK market?
I hope so. I think Brewery have a lot of beer in the UK at the moment, a lot of cask beer in the UK at the moment. I would hope that they kind of focus on Ireland first and let us build our base up here. And I'm sure there's a couple of really good craft beer pubs in the UK which will probably import them. But whether they have it permanently imported or not, I'm not too sure. But if some breweries might be just setting up for different markets. But I would love to see it growing in Ireland first, certainly, before it starts to move over.
Okay.
You know.
And what is it for you? What's the thing about craft beer that makes you want to bring it into your bars and sell it? Why that over the big beers?
Well, for one, it's what people want. It's what people are asking for. And once you get into it and you see the care that goes into it, you see, for some aspects, the love that goes into making a beer, and how happy they are when the beer is well received, as opposed to, here's free kegs, sell this beer for me, where they are happy to have their beer in your premises. That for me is a really good thing. The connection is there, the relationship you build up with each brewer, each importer and so on. There's a lot more care goes into it, a lot more love goes into it, and we just love to see that. And when people are doing well, they're happy, everyone's happy, and they get to try some different beers, so that's why we go for it. People come in, they want to try some different beers. Not every pub is craft beer, not every pub wants to even go near it, but they will specialise in gin, whiskey, whatever their particular thing is. I think beer for me really is something I love, so that's why I love selling it, because when we get new beer in and the rush, like when we sold Odell's on tap this year, that's the beer I've been looking for years. So we first had it on tap, and it absolutely flew out. I was delighted to get it into the pub. You know, things like that make a difference, and when we get good reviews, that helps a lot. That you know, you're doing something right. So to have good craft beer in our pub, it brings people into the pub. It certainly gets it gets new people into the pub. It gets people staying in the pub. It gets people coming in to check out what you've got on and what's happening. So it's always a good sign.
Okay, well, clearly you're doing something right, because we're studying your cellar right now. Above us, there are tons of people buying beers over the bar. So I'm going to thank you for your time, and I'm going to let you get back up there to serving the people that want to taste the great beer.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
No problem at all.